Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to this video. Here I'm gonna share my experience of how a crossed over spirit, a soul, had given me the first twin flame story. Yes, the first time when I got to know about twin flames, the experience of twin flames, it was not via a human being. It was via a crossed over spirit. The spirit had contacted me and had asked me to pass on a message to someone who was obviously in the earth realm, someone very close, someone very dear. So let's get started and dive into this experience, this story, this spiritual intervention. In my book, In the Name of Love, there is a first chapter which is about a man who met me in person. And I was not alone that day. I had a bunch of people with me who also witnessed everything. And I think out of that group, one person still in touch with me, still I was friendly to that guy, but I'm not very social, so I have not kept in touch with a lot of people. But once the same friend had contacted me and told me, when he was reading the book, he said that I am also one of those people in the group of friends, right? I said, yes, you are there too. So it was the first story in the book, but actually much before that, when I didn't even know so deeply about twin flames or this concept of ascension, maybe I was in awakening stage or in ascension journey, but I was not aware about it. I was still working in a job and life was very different for me at that point in time. That soul also told me something very interesting about downloads and about channelings, which I was very surprised I got to know via a spirit. This story is also there in my book, but it's not on number one. When I was writing the story, for me, while writing it, I was assuming that, okay, this is the first man who told me about Shiva Shakti or Ardhanarishwar energy. So basically, Ardhanarishwar energy is called twin flame energy in English language. That's how it got translated to twin flames. But it means the harmonious union of Shiva Shakti. And even if you don't add harmonious to it, union of Shiva Shakti is good enough. Because harmony is also one of the stages in the twin flame ascension journey, so some people can get confused with it. Now, let me start the story from where it actually started. So, I was working in a BPO at that point in time. I was still not a quality executive or a trainer. I actually got promoted really fast in my life, and I must tell you guys via this video that I started working very early. I started working when I was just 15 years old, and nobody had pressured me or forced me to do it. I was in a hostel. There were lots and lots of girls. Even in my hostel, we had some experiences with the spirits, but I will keep that for some other video. And I had a very intense experience. That was the first time I realized that the spirit realm is real. Some spirits are in pain, some spirits are actually ghosts and they're just stuck here and they want their presence to be known to other people, but some have crossed over and some are doing some good work also, and they're trying to connect with human beings in a way that they can contribute. In this way, they are actually also contributing in the earth's ascension process. For example, there is a very famous Bollywood actor. He passed away in 2020 in mysterious conditions. But a lot of people have spoken to his spirit. Lots of people have channeled his spirit. You would be very surprised to know, even on the day his death happened, I channeled his energy and I spoke about it to another person, another family friend of mine who was also a famous celebrity, and he passed over in 2023. And I told him that from today onwards, this Bollywood industry will never be same. Things will change, everything will change, celebrity worship will reduce, and after a while it will even, go into the dumps. And the same day then we got the news. When I channeled that energy, it was a very sad energy. There was a lot of pain, there was a lot of trauma in that energy. It was very heavy energy. And I could also feel the pain. I could also feel the sadness and also the anger, the frustration, the anger. Then in 2024, which is this year, and I think once in between also, his soul had communicated with me on his own, because I don't go to any souls or I don't do that type of work, because I don't feel like, interfering in anybody's journey or anybody's thought, unless it's very, very, very important. So if I have channeled any soul communication, the first attempt has been made by the soul, not by me. Not yet. But I will tell you, there have been some situations where I had to perform a spontaneous exorcism, and that too I will talk about in another video. So I was working in a corporate company, a corporate job. It was a night shift. It used to be graveyard shift sometimes. Sometimes they would give us evening shift, but rarely they used to give us daylight shift. And I never liked that part about my job. I always wanted to work in the daytime. I was also okay with UK shift. Why I was working so early is because when I did my first job, at that point in time, I was living in a hostel full of girls, and there were a lot of ladies also who were postgraduates, and there were a lot of people who were graduates. So we had a combination of different types of students. It was a vocational college, and I was in the hostel. And of course, my parents wanted me to stay in the hostel so that I'm in a disciplined environment. And that was the time I actually had too much fun, because in hostel, when you're so many girls, you can do all sorts of things. We used to party a lot. We used to have a lot of fun even inside the hostel, not just outside. It was good for character development, but after a point I felt that I was not doing much in my life. So initial few months I was enjoying with the girls, but later on a senior student had come in, and we were very friendly because she was also in media. She was also studying media, and I was also studying media. So she was very responsible. She was there, and one more girl was there whose father was not there. And these two girls were very hardworking, very responsible, and very independent. So I was friends with them. And when you are friends with independent women, smart women, not egotistical or something, but very responsible, they told me, like, you must work, you must make your own money. If you can get the opportunity, why not? Thanks to these ladies, I found myself a job. In fact, one of the interviews that I gave was with one of them, the senior one. And the younger one, who was probably 2-3 years elder to me, used to do a lot of promotional events. And she had many good contacts, and the mall culture was very new and it was very happening. All the kids and college students used to go to the malls, and if you were a promoter, if you were working on an event, you were actually kind of seen with more respect. And getting into promotions was not easy either, but they were always looking for well spoken people, pleasant looking people, and even if you're a bit younger, that was okay because you're pulling the crowd. So I would go out with them, and that gave me a much bigger edge, because when you start working at a young age, you start making your own money, you become very confident, and you get to meet a lot of people. So at that age, I was meeting a lot of people, I was talking to a lot of people, and people were generally very nice to me. I was also very nice to people, and I realized that I was actually benefiting, because my classes were in the morning. I had morning classes, and after 12 I was literally free the whole day, so I could work, and even in weekends I was sometimes working. So my parents had no idea about this. For a long time they did not know, and this is the reason why when I started applying for jobs, even when I was still not a graduate, I could easily get through, because by that time, 2-3 years later, I had a diploma in media communication, and I also was doing my graduation. Plus, I had job experience. So I would say that this is all a grace of God, and this is because of my masters. I feel very grateful to my masters, that my masters and Shri Ram, I feel very grateful, because not only they made me very independent, but they gave me a lot of skills and qualities. I was just an ordinary kid, and I could have gone wrong way also, because as I told you, I used to party a lot, I used to meet all kinds of people. I could have also gotten into bad company, and I was into bad company for a while, but due to my responsible side, you can say, due to work and due to making money, I would always excuse myself, and I never had the time. I had to go to college. It was a strict environment, and my father had local guardians who were always coming to meet me, check on me, and my parents would keep calling me up. So I was always disciplined, and I also enjoyed working and making money. Now, this made me connect with a lot of people, and this also made me a bit more congenial, and it made me a bit more open also. I did have psychic abilities even at that time, but it was completely under wraps. I would never talk about it to anyone. And I actually, for a long time, thought that most people have similar experiences because I was raised in a household, even in my childhood. I have seen many people in my family. I won't say many, but yeah, for a child, the number was big. They would channel deities, and the deities would heal other people. So I still have such people in my household, and people from the nearby areas come in hordes to get healed via them. So for me, it was very normal. And even till date, the deities are extremely loving towards me, very protective, touch wood, very loving. And again, this is because of my masters. Deities have collaborated with me, I would say, in many things. Many times I was stuck in really dark places because somehow I was attracting these demonic forces also. While I was working, or while I was living, or while I was doing all sorts of normal and extraordinary things as well, there were lots of demonic forces that were drawn to me, and they would attack me. So yeah, I would also experience psychic attacks, but I was also very much protected and guarded. So many a times I also saw people going through big problems after they troubled me unnecessarily. Like, I literally saw it with my own eyes. Some of the cases I was like shocked, like, oh my god, this happened to this person. And sometimes they even apologized to me, sometimes they didn't. But when they went through those situations, when I thought that they are paying for the bad deeds, because I was just a child, I was still very young. Till 19, you're still a teenager. Even though I was working, I was still hanging out with a lot of people who were sometimes double my age, triple my age. I was also training people who were elder to me and more educated than me. I mean, later on, I got promoted, I became a trainer, and that was my dream job actually. So before all of this happened, I was working in this process, which was like a nighttime thing, and I remember people used to go out for smoke breaks and coffee breaks. So there was this one girl with whom I felt a bit of connection. It was not like a close friend connection. It was not like we were really like friendly and all, but I always felt like some kind of telepathic connection or something, which was not easily explainable to me. Only after a few years I figured out why I was drawn to her and why I was even important in her life at that point in time. So I was sleeping, and I'd still feel I was sleeping, but it was not really a dream state thing. It was more like an astral projection, because what I experienced after that was not only very real, but it came with a lot of tangible physical proofs later on. So yeah, I felt that I was sleeping, and suddenly I was transported to a room. It was a small room, a normal regular room. So some of the people used to live in hostels, and some of the people used to live in PGs. PGs were like paying guest sort of things. They were working, they didn't want to spend too much money, so they would just take a room, and the room would have basic furniture. So there was a low bed, and there was one almirah in that room. That's it. That was the only furniture. And there was a big window. And this girl who worked in my office, who I was not very close to, but I knew her because she was in the same process. And sometimes we could go in the same cab, like we would get dropped in the same cab. And I always also noticed that she always had red eyes. Her eyes were red and puffy most of the times. But I never asked. I thought this is probably how her eyes must be naturally. So I was then kind of surprised because I was in her room. She was sitting on the low bed and she was crying. She was crying a lot, and she was in a lot of pain, emotional pain. And there was a man, a lean, tall, lanky sort of guy with curly hair, And I still remember his eyelashes were a bit curled, even though his face was not very clear, but I could still make out his physical facial structure. And he was standing next to the window, like he was taking a bit of support of the window. He was not standing completely still, and he was kind of very relaxed, and he was looking at her. And I was in the room, and I was looking at her too. I am getting goosebumps right now on this area, on the crown chakra area. And I was looking at her, and then I looked at him, and I realized that we both could talk to each other, but the girl could not hear us. Yeah, we were both able to interact. And I think with spirits, sometimes you don't need that many words. You need, like, very few words are needed, and in some cases I remember not that many words are exchanged. It's a very strong telepathic connection you feel at that point in time. So this person looked at me, and I looked at him. I was also like curious. I was thinking, why is she crying, and why am I even here? But I was not scared. I was not like shocked, because as I told you, it's not like a big thing. I never consider these things to be really big, or spirit communication. Since childhood I was like that. I don't know why, but I was like that. So I asked him very casually, like, why is she crying? And he said, see, you noticed it too, right? She's crying so much. I said, yeah, she is. He said, can you do me a favor tomorrow? So he was very well aware that I'm going to meet her tomorrow. So I said, yes. What should I do? Like, what is it? He said, can you pass on a message to her, my message to her. Can you pass on my message to her? I said, yeah, I will. What is the message? He said, just tell her that she should not cry so much. And this is something that I'm telling her to do, because every time she cries so much, it hurts me a lot. I feel a lot of pain. I'm troubled. It's not good. I mean, he said some things, but I could feel like it was complete 5-10 lines that he just said to me. But I could just see like little bit of movements, facial movements. And then I said, cool, I'll tell her. I'll let her know. And that's it. I was out of that place. Then I was straight away in my room, and I was like thinking about the whole thing. And I got dressed in the morning, in the afternoon, at like the night shift. So it started in the afternoon. We had to get ready by afternoon, evening, and then the shift would start. So I went to office, and I started looking for her everywhere. And she was sitting in some place. The thing about her was that she was very dedicated to her work. I mean, I did my work too. I was good at my stats and all. But I would see her that she was always into the equipment and the gadgets and all that. So I looked for her, and she put herself on break mode. And I told her that, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And this girl was like, yeah, sure. So when I looked at her face, she actually had lots of like puffiness and around the eyelid area, and her eyelids were actually swollen. Maybe she cried the whole night. Who knows? And I looked at her and I said, I have a message for you from someone who met me last night in my dream. And the girl was like, what? I said, yeah. I didn't even care what she's going to think about me. Like, I was not so concerned about that, I think. She said, what's the message? I said, I was in your room, and you were sitting on a low bed. You have a low bed in your room and one almirah. And there's a big window. I could see that her facial expressions were like changing as she kept listening to whatever I had to say. And then I said there was a lanky, thin, lean guy, tall guy standing next to it with curly hair. And he has a message for you. And I think this girl was never so friendly with me. Even later on, she was not that close to me. But I think something clicked in her that time. Of course, she didn't know in future I would become a supernatural writer, or I would, do these kind of things. And she had no idea about my experiences. She had no clue. she didn't know, like in future I would be doing exorcisms and things like that, or being a energy healer or tarot card reader and this and that. So she was like, okay. And then I said, he has a message for you. He said, well, you were crying a lot last night and he was watching you, like he was standing in the room, and he looked at me and he said that, can you please tell her tomorrow that she should not cry like this because it really hurts him. It's really difficult for him. And for a moment she looked at me and then she grabbed her bag. A lot of girls have this habit, they have a big bag and they have tons of things inside it. So she was probably one of those. And she pulled out a wallet from it, and then she opened up the wallet and there was a photograph in the wallet, and she she took out the picture, the photograph, and she asked me, was he the guy? Like, this was the guy, right? She asked me. And I looked at the picture. I said, oh yes, that's him. That's him. Yeah, that's him. Like, who is he? Who is he? And you'll find it a bit funny, but even till this point, I wasn't thinking in my head that it's a spirit that has crossed over. I was not thinking on those lines. He said, yeah, who's he? Because one more thing is that in my family, in my maternal side of family, we also study dreams. So I know meanings of many dreams because of that. Because since childhood, I've gotten this type of education. In a way, I was homeschooled to study dreams because they all study dreams, and it's a tiny village. There is a lot of stuff that happens in that village, and there are lots of stories, some scary stories, some very beautiful stories. And I've been given these gifts, like they've been passed on from one generation to another. So most of the females, like some of the female protagonists in my house who I know very well, they also have those gifts, and some don't. Some don't have it at all and they don't care about it, but some do. And it's very obvious. Even my mother can see visions, and she has interacted with people from other dimensions from time to time. So some of those gifts, they get passed on, and gifts don't come easily. When I say words like gifts, I don't want to sound very superior or very like, oh, I've got gifts. I think there are also some curses that come along with the gifts, but they probably know, the spirit guides know, the spirit realm protectors and benevolent caretakers know that this kid can handle it, can handle all this trauma and curses. So let the kid be the one who's going to break the generational trauma and the loop, and let this kid do these things, I'm sure they have their own deciding factors, and I will discuss that later in some other video. So yeah, this interaction happened, and she showed me the picture, and I was like, yeah, this is the guy. And then she told me, well, he died in a car crash, and last night was his birthday. So he was my boyfriend. And I was crying because I was missing him, and that was the reason. And I was like, okay. Few days later, by chance, I went to her house, and it was the same room. I was shocked. Everything was same. The furniture, the setting. There was just very few things, but the whole room, it was the same exact room. And I'd never even been to her house before that. So when I saw the room and the decor and everything, it was a validation for me also. Because all that while, I was still looking for something more. And I was still very young, and I was still not so much interested in this side of life. I was still in the the corporate world. I wanted my career to be very big. I wanted to take care of my family really well. I had lots of goals. It doesn't matter how old you are, how much your age is, but you can be career oriented, and I was always career oriented, and I loved working. I enjoyed working. I enjoyed being independent and responsible. So everyone has different hobbies. I think working was one of my hobbies. So I was more like, okay, fine, this happened, so what? I did not take it very seriously. I was like, okay, it happened, and maybe it's a good thing, I am connected with my masters. I was chanting. I used to go to my spiritual center even at that time. I've been actually working on solar plexus mantras since childhood. When I was in my mother's womb, that's when she got initiated. So practically I was chanting, because they say whatever the mother does, it goes to the child, it goes to the baby. So as soon as I was in her womb, she started meditating upon the solar plexus mantra, the Ram sound, the Ram Bij mantra. So since childhood, I have the habit of connecting with my masters. And I was again very young when I met my master. I was a kid, and my master had a big influence on my spiritual journey. I did have some spiritual and psychic experiences even at that time, and they were very interesting. But still, there was a side of me which was like, you have to study, you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to get a job. I was in that zone like a lot of us. I would say that yes, my awakening had happened, because as a child I was also molested. I had some very traumatic experiences, like again most of us. So I knew that there were some people who were not good. Some people's energy was very demonic, and I could see it, but I did not know what it meant. I did not have names at that time, because by the time I started writing the book, a lot of things had changed around me and also in the protagonist's life, the other protagonist. But the spirit told me that when we give downloads to you, we try to look for people nearby you who would match vibrationally, and even if it's a 60 to 70, 80% match at that point in time, we are going to give you the download via that person. Now there is also free will, and later on that person may choose to do different things, and they may not be in the same energy field. But at that point in time, when we are giving you the download, when you are channeling this information, then at that time they seem to be a perfect match. And there's one more example like that, which I will talk about in another story, because that's when a messenger had contacted me to give the story. A spirit messenger had contacted me. It was a beautiful experience, but it had been done via a human being that I knew. So I will explain that also to you in some other video. One more thing I feel is that the awareness that we need to heal from certain incidents and situations also comes to us because of awakening, because of Kundalini rising. I mean, there are other people also. I've grown up with them, I've seen them, I've hung out with them. They are still living in the same way. Yes, they have not awakened much. Some have awakened a little bit, but half an hour of conversation, an hour of conversation, and because they watch completely different movies, they watch completely different content, they talk different things, they live a different life. I mean, there is very less kind of synchronicity, or it's all small talk, I would say. But there is also love, and there's also acceptance, and there's also understanding that okay, they are different and it's all right to be different. Yes, there was a time when I was not happy being different. I also wanted to be normal. I also wanted to be like them. I also wanted to fit in with them, but of course I could not. So this was a very important event, and when I started writing the book In the Name of Love, at this time, if you read the story of Siddhi and Yudhvir, you will find out what happens, like the details of twin flame ascension or twin flame journey. It's all mentioned in the book. But this spirit later on also sent me a download when I was writing the book. There was no theory, knowledge, neither were my people doing those things. Like the things that I am doing right now, they were not doing those things. They were channeling the deities, but it was only to protect our clan. So our clan is very big, and the deities take care of people in the clan. And the deities were always nice to me. They always took care of me. They pampered me. Even if they would be beating other kids with the sticks, they would never do that to me. They would love me and in fact pamper me, and it was all fine. But I still went through my share of negative experiences. I still went through a lot of trauma. I still went through bad relationships. I went through toxicity. I also experienced certain types of abuses, which today I take care of in other people's lives. I heal people from those problems. If you also feel that you're not able to deal with psychic attacks and demonic attacks, and there's a lot of demonic energy around you, you also feel that there's this whole evil eye energy around you, and you feel like you need some hand holding, you need therapy, you need healing from all these negative entity attacks, then you can join my therapy. You can check out the details in the description box. I will see you in the next video. One love, peace out, and victory to Ram.